Someone's been watching Rush Hour too much. And
I've
it's
never
not
seen
her.
that.
I know, but you're still doing what Chris Tucker does in that movie.
Who's Chris Tucker?
Oh my gosh. How are we even married? Hello, and welcome to The Therapists Say, where we break down from our fans things that their therapists have told them that rightfully give us all pause. Today we're going to be talking about the advice that a baby fixes everything.
You're saying it doesn't?
Has it for us?
Well, I mean, I did it 5 times, so if it's not fixing something, why?
Because we didn't discover that vasectomies were a thing until pretty late in the game. So here's the thing. Couples often think, okay, we're stressed, we're having a hard time, we're on the verge of breaking up, and there's this very old school mentality.
Right.
It's very old school, but...
Predominantly religious cultures, I'm telling you.
This idea that if you have a baby, marriage is for family, right? So if you have a baby, it will strengthen your marriage. It will give you unity of purpose, right? And the
Closeness.
And closeness as you bond over this life that you've created. And the love that the child brings into your home will be bonding and healing. Your thoughts?
This is not true. So there is a lot of responsibility that comes along with raising a child for 18 years. A lot of stress. And I don't think, when there's already stress or tension, you just pile on some more stress, take away some sleep, and it's like that's somehow supposed to fix it.
It's water on a grease fire.
Yeah, along with the idea that you're bringing a human being, you're bringing a child into this environment. And is that really fair?
Fair for the kid. Yeah.
For the child.
Because I look at it like your relationship is the foundation for the family, right? If the home is your building, your relationship is the foundation. And if the foundation is wonky, you don't start building the walls.
Right.
Right? You fix the foundation first. You're right that it's not fair to the kids. I just look back on how little sleep we got when we had newborns. And I just think if you're having strain and stress in your marriage, and then you add
a lack of sleep,
a total lack of sleep, you add a divergence of this is just more opportunities for us to disagree and argue over something. And the stakes are even higher now. So the emotion is even higher.
Right.
And we haven't figured out how to resolve conflict or communicate in a healthy way. It's just going to compound everything. It's all just going to be bigger. And then you get less sleep. There's diapers to change. There's more bills to pay. Everything gets more expensive. Everything gets more complicated.
Right.
Now, some of you are watching and it's like, well, the ship's already sailed. Our relationship was in trouble and we already had more kids, or I'm pregnant. Like, it's okay. The answer is still the same. When they say the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, the second best time to plant a tree is today, right? It's the same thing with couples therapy. It's the same thing with working on your relationship.
Right.
Like, would it have been better before kids? Sure. It's still not too late. But if you're contemplating having kids to fix your marriage, that's not how marriages get fixed.
Don't do it.
The best way to fix your marriage is to actually work on conflict resolution, is to work on your anger, is to work on what you do. Do you withdraw when you're angry or do you lash out, right? And what should you do instead and how do you get there? It's to work on actually communicating your wants and needs. It's working on getting on the same page as far as goals, as far as life vision, as far as how you'll raise your kids. Because if you think you're arguing now about who should do the dishes or who's going to take the trash out or your jealousies, just wait when it comes to how we're going to raise the kids. It's going to be huge.
So when is the right time to have a child? How do you know?
Well, some people say I want to wait till I feel ready. I don't think you're ever ready to have a kid.
I would have been like 40.
Yeah, right?
I would have been like, I think I'm ready now.
Because it's a growth experience, and there's always going to be a curve, and there's always going to be things that you couldn't anticipate. But as far as your relationship, are we on the same page as far as our goals for our life? And you may think that you are, but if you're not having regular conversations about what your life looks like 5 years from now, a year from now, 6 months from now, 3 months from now, if you're not talking about what we are gonna do with our money, right? How we spend our money, how we save our money, how we invest our money. If you're not talking about what values do we want to instill our children, what role does faith have in our home, if any? These are the types of things that you want to be locked down on the same page, and then you can bring children in. Are you having a lot of contentious strife and conflict?
Right. Well, and something to understand about conflict is all couples have conflict, and conflict isn't necessarily a bad thing.
It's like manure. It stinks and no one likes it, but it's necessary for growth, right? Conflict can be a very beautiful thing. A lot of the best growth in our marriage, both for us as a couple and for us as individuals, has come from conflict. It's come from disagreement. It's come from seeing the world differently and having to like do that painful process of meeting in the middle somewhere. There's conflict and there's contention.
The question is, do you know how to resolve conflict in a healthy manner? Are you able to stop and calm down, come back, and come back together?
And I'll tell you, if you haven't learned it, like sought out how to learn it, the answer is probably no, you don't. Most people naturally don't know how to resolve conflict. We are fight or flight. We withdraw or we attack, and that is what people do. So if you haven't actually taken the time to learn it, the answer is probably no.
Well, and recognize that it's almost never modeled. Like, I didn't grow up in a home where it was modeled in a healthy way. Most of us don't have that example. And so how do you create something in your life that you don't even know what it looks like?
Right. I had it, and I realized the older I get how rare that is, that I had a healthy model of how to resolve conflict and how to navigate differences and how to be a team. It's actually the reason why I became a therapist, is I saw what my parents had and I wanted other people to have it. We offer support in that arena. Our counselors are all trained in helping couples like yourselves to get into a place where you can resolve conflict in a way that brings you closer together instead of pulling you apart. And so if you're watching this and you could use a little extra support, schedule a complimentary 15-minute consultation. There's the link in the description below.
So I have one more question. If people are in a relationship, a couple, and they're struggling and they had a baby, what do they do now?
Get help now. Learn now. Is it going to be a little bit more of an uphill battle or a lot more of an uphill battle because you've got children in the mix? Yeah, it will. Doesn't mean it's not worth doing, right? And so you educate yourself. There are 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work is a great book on this subject that I would recommend. The work that we do with our relationship courses and that our therapists do is great work for that. But there's so many sources and resources for how to be a healthy couple. We do not live in an age that our grandparents lived in where no one's talking about this.
Right.
Where everyone's just assuming, well, you love each other and you make it work. The fact is, the good old days weren't necessarily so good. I mean, some people had great healthy marriages that they kind of stumbled into, or they learned some good values, but a lot of people...
There's a lot of unmet needs. There was a lot of buried trauma.
Yeah, and they stayed together, but they were miserable. But we don't live in that era anymore. There are so many resources for people out there.
And recognize if there are generational patterns of behavior or examples that you're living with, that you can be the pivot point. You can be the turning point. You can be the person that says, this stops with me and my kids are going to have a better example. My kids are going to have a different opportunity.
Yeah. Now, I do want to say, for a lot of people, having kids can be a very bonding, beautiful experience that brings you closer together, that increases your unified purpose. But what it doesn't do is fix what's broken, right? If what's broken is fixed, if you're in a solid place, then yes, it can be something that brings you even closer. But it's a Band-Aid on a bullet wound, and it's not to be used that way. It's not fair to the kids, and it's not fair to you. Now, if you've enjoyed this one, which of course you have, we want to invite you to check out this other video. You can't heal broken relationships, they said. How do you know if a relationship can be saved or if it's time to walk away? We address it in that video. Now, for those of you who are watching, let us know in the comments below, how do you strengthen your marriage and how do you prepare for children, or how have you done this? We'd love to hear what you have to think.
Love to hear what you have to think.
Or have to say. So until next time, please keep shining because we need your light. Oh, look it. It's the next one that we were telling them about. I don't know why you would do anything with your time but just sit and watch Mended Light videos all day. All day, every day.
I bet it makes you a better person.
It's a pretty good life.